We are now 5 weeks through the college football season, and Colorado has a bye this week. We got Kansas State coming up, but the three of us here with Mr. Ben Schwalik of Bravo Charlie on Twitter, here to really just chop up this team through 5 weeks. Any takeaways, some big standouts through these 5 weeks. And yeah, nothing like chopping up with the boys. How we doing, guys?
Good, excited to talk about it. Almost through the bye week, so looking forward to watching some more football. It's kind of tough not watching your team on a weekend, but it's all good.
Yeah, I'm fiending for it, especially after that Bama Vandy game. We got some friends in Nashville right now. I'm sure they're having a great time. I'm ready to get back, man. I'm hungry for these cats to come play at Folsom Field.
Yes, sir. I think we get right into this one because me and Oscar just talked about this, but with Alabama losing, it kind of hurts Jalen Milroe's Heisman run. And, for us having Mr. Travis Hunter on our team, I think this is something to look at because, throughout the rest of the season, there's a lot of football to be played, but we know that there's about 3 or 4 guys that can be in that conversation. I think this definitely helps Travis with the bye as well. I think he's going to be ready next week, back in Folsom, and just show us why he is in these conversations.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Sorry, all you.
No, I was just going to say Travis Hunter is clearly the front runner for Heisman right now. What he's doing on both sides of the ball, he's just gotten better on offense this year and defense, but significantly better on offense. We are watching something that may never be recreated again in any sport at any level. And just to be able to watch that firsthand, see him every other week at Folsom Field, destroying guys on defense, mossing guys on offense, it has been nothing but a pleasure. And yeah, Travis for Heisman, the campaign continues.
No, 100%. And it's one of those things. A lot of people talk about how, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it at the NFL. And that's a whole nother question. But it's you can't compare Travis to anyone else. People are like, oh, well, Charles Woodson didn't, Dion, didn't, all these guys. And it's yeah, but they weren't playing this many snaps on offense and defense. They had a package here and there, but he's legitimately two different, all-American players on the field. It's unbelievable. And honestly, one thing about our schedule this year, having 2 bye weeks, that's just going to be huge for him. This week, it feels like there's so much left in the tank after that win. I bet we could play this week no problem, and so could he. But having a full week to recover is going to be huge for him. And then I think in another 3 games or so, we have another bye, which will be great. So I'm just hoping he stays healthy, knock on wood, because it'd be unbelievable if he didn't win at this pace.
It's really just so out of ordinary how many snaps he plays. Everyone that's not a big Colorado football fan is kind of preying on his downfall secretly because they know that what he is doing is just unlike any other. And just like you said, so we're going into the bye. We have a 4-1 record overall, and we're undefeated in the Big 12. I think we haven't played our toughest competition to come. Kansas State is going to be the first ranked team we got on the schedule. But looking back at these wins, which one stood out to you most? Let's go, Oscar, first.
Yeah, I think the UCF win probably stood out the most. I'll go with that answer, just so Schwally can take another avenue down this. But, the UCF win, we beat the spread by, I think, 30-plus points. 2 touchdown underdogs ended up winning by 20-plus. That was crazy, especially going into Florida, like we've talked about on this podcast. Florida is a different level of football. Florida and Texas football, the scene is different. The intensity is different. It's just a whole different ball game down there. And the fact that we just came in favored to lose that game heavily and destroyed that team, I can't speak enough about how this defense has transformed and evolved to where it's at now. Shout out the defense because they've been killing it this season. But, that has just got to be such a big confidence booster, especially since the game before. We barely squeaked out about it, which I have a feeling Ben is going to talk about right now. But if he doesn't, that's fine too.
Yeah, well, I mean, UCF was absolutely unbelievable, and also the fact we did it in front of 100 recruits that were there for UCF. I mean, that just feels so good. And I guess the fashion in which we won, like it wasn't. If we won in any way against UCF, it would have been a big deal because they're a great team. But UCF was averaging 380 yards a game, number one in the country in rushing, leading up to that, and we held them to like 150 or something, which is just ridiculous. Like we really dominated them at their strength. But since you chose UCF and I have to choose something else, I mean,
You could choose UCF. You could choose UCF.
well, UCF I think showed the most because it was a complete game. But I think Baylor did show a lot because Baylor was a game in which we probably weren't supposed to win, and we did win. Here's Liam.
Let's go, Zerk.
And
Live.
Zerk
We are
the
live on
boss.
Boss Manager. Let's get it.
Oh, shit. I made the appearance.
yeah,
Go.
close the door. and Baylor was huge because we did win. And it's like teams that know how to win, teams that, I mean, I don't know about you guys. You were there. That video was all over House of Highlights and whatnot. It's like 99% of the country watching their team in that position would have left the stadium and been like, screw that. But everyone in Folsom was there because we knew we had a chance because Shedeur Sanders is our quarterback, Deion Sanders is our coach. Like, it just showed a lot about how, like, we can never, like, we're never out of a game with, like, the players we have, which, I mean, showed a lot of resilience. And, well, hey, a win's a win. So just being 4-1 at this point, going on the bye, is, I mean, feels so much better than 3-2 or 2-3. It's huge for us.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, hitting that Shedeur magic, I think every time the game is close, like just like you said, we know we have a chance. And I think that Baylor game was huge for me because it made me realize again, kind of looking back at the team from last year, where at the start of the season, that magic was there and like winning those close games. Obviously starting off in TCU, but coming to this year, it felt like the same type of energy plus 100% as well, because I know that this team is so much better than last year. And I think just us three looking at this team from more of like a analytical and like reporting point of view, it's like people don't give enough respect to this defense. What this defense has done, we'll talk about our linebackers. We could talk about our corners. Like really every single puzzle piece has just been working for this team. And I don't want to jinx it going forward, but, stopping that run at UCF, coming like, we're putting the offense in pressure like possessions where these fumble recoveries, these interceptions, like forcing turnovers is such a big momentum boost for this offense, which we already know what they can do on their own. So I think that is definitely my biggest takeaway, is just our defense looking forward, because we are a team to beat. And kind of like I said last year, how like we knew we had that magic, and this year I feel like everyone knows again, and just like in a way are preying on our downfall, because who knows what can happen. This team can sneak in, win the Big 12 conference. I'm not going to say college football playoff, but it's just like possibilities are endless when we have Shedeur and Travis Hunter on this team.
I just think it's so crazy how fast this team has elevated themselves. You go back, watch the North Dakota State game, which was way too close for comfort. I mean, if the team we have right now is playing the North Dakota State team, we would have kicked their asses, hands down. That one was close. I mean, I think we all felt comfortable about it. Nebraska, Ben and I were talking about this before the game. I feel bad because Ben was super optimistic about it, and I was kind of raining on his parade, being like,
right,
dude, we might get our asses kicked. And we did, you know what I mean? And I don't know if that was the wake-up call or whatever, but, man, these last two games have been a pleasure to watch. This team, like you were just saying, specifically the defense. I mean, the offense is always the offense deserves credit too. It's just like they've been there. You know what I mean? We've been waiting for this defense to wake up, and they've finally arrived, and they're still coming. You know what I mean? Robert Livingston, hands down, one of the best defensive coordinators right now.
What a hire.
Yes. No.
He's going to be in the NFL next year, or within a couple of years, because, man, yeah, he's just a different type of coach.
Yeah, and that goes back to like Deion recruiting too, I mean, like so many players. This team is full of transfer portal players, full of new coaching staff, and the fact that it's like gelling this well together that people are even talking about Colorado to the college football playoffs, Colorado to win the Big 12. It's crazy. Like, when was the last time this was done? The answer is never, man. You got a one-of-one player in Travis Hunter. You got all this in the background, just like so many new parts, and it's just working as well as it can, which is, again, we're college students at CU Boulder, so it's like right in front of our faces, which is probably why I'm so passionate about it right now. But it's just beautiful to see.
Yeah, I mean, like back to that Livingston hire, that was just another one of those times where it's just like trust Dion. Like I was so pessimistic about it for a while. We hadn't, if you guys remember, like we hired him super late in the cycle, and people are, like Coach like Reed on Twitter or something came out and was saying how like, oh my God, this is a big hire, and it was like a month later we didn't have a DC, and then like here comes Robert Livingston, and it's like not like a huge name. So people are looking at other guys from the NFL who are bigger names to take it. And I mean, it's unbelievable the defense he's making. And I mean, his big thing, right, is allowing your shooters to shoot. So like having all your defensive players play to their strength, which I mean is great. And I think that kind of, you can attribute a lot of the gelling to that because he's not putting these players in a position that they're not really used to. He's just leaning into their strengths. Whereas Coach Kelly might have, had a super structured defense and saying we're playing this way. But something I like to think
He's
about.
an innovator.
Yeah, totally. And there's a lot of veterans on defense too, which is huge. I mean, like you look back to last year, and I know you don't like to bring up the name like Cormani McLean, where it's like this big flashy name, like 5-star. But
Who's that?
Yeah, exactly. He was at the UCF game checking us out, but it's like that was so exciting. And it's like, oh, why'd he leave? But you look at the defense now, it's like Preston Hodge, who's like just here to make a name for himself and go to the NFL. DJ McKinney, who's a low key guy and is just like, I just know Dion, like I can put my trust in him in my development. Even Colton Hood is like our 4th best cornerback, and I think he'd be one of the better ones last year. It's like we are like the defense feels like strictly business. Even like Levante Bentley, I mean, that guy is just a grinder, it seems. But you look back at, I saw Dion is kind of doing a similar thing as what he did at Jackson State because he was there for 2 years, obviously. His first year, I think they were 3-3, and then COVID happened, and they were kind of just, I mean, they were a 500 team. His second year, the team like won the SWAC and was 11-2 or 12-1, and they were led by a lockdown defense, and they really improved their run game. And that just shows like Dion's kind of like an old school guy who wants to run the football and wants to have a super solid defense and take shots when he needs to. But it's just funny. It's like people kind of just pass up on Dion, but if you really look at like his works in the past 2 years, he has like a plan, which is, play smash mouth football and take shots when you can. So yeah.
For sure. Potential coach of the year, maybe. I don't know if we keep winning. I mean, that's something to look at. Last thing I wanted to check on before kind of going into the future outlook for this team is we talked about last year, and we haven't really talked about this on our pod yet because it happened pretty recently, but Trevor Woods redshirting and I think potentially transferring. I think we know that's what's going to happen now, like after watching this UNLV guy, the quarterback. But Trevor Woods was like our star defensive player last year. I mean, it was him and Shiloh who kind of did it all for this team. And obviously, like, I wish him all the success, but it's like, we don't really need him anymore. I mean, this defense, like, I know he gained some weight. Look, he was trying to be a linebacker, moved from safety, but this linebacker room is here to stay. With Nikai Hill Green, like, he is just different. But yeah, okay, I just had to talk about that because, I did like recognize Trevor Woods. I felt like no one really talked about him like redshirting, and like he was a big piece for us last year.
You think he will transfer? Because Jeremiah Brown came out and said he wasn't gonna, and he was redshirting. But I mean, yeah, do you think he will?
Well, I think the only thing I saw with that is because Jeremiah was a freshman, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, Trevor Wood, like, I don't know how many years of eligibility he has, but like, I mean, he has the talent to play, so if he's not getting enough time here, like, I'm like, that's the whole part of transfer portal and just NIL and everything.
Yeah, super interesting how, like you said, he was a star last year, and this year he's redshirt. He only has 9 tackles, I get, or I'm sorry, 14 total tackles, 9 solo tackles. But like, it's really, and we've been talking about this every single podcast. What have you? We're in the business of what have you done for me recently? And if he doesn't fit the scheme here, I wish him the best of luck. He balled out last year. He's definitely a guy everyone loved last year. But right now, Silman Craig, Mekhi Hill-Green, and McKinney account for 30% of the tackles made on this team, man. And if we have guys like that, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm left with no words really for Mr. Woods.
Yeah, to close this off, I kind of want to we can do a little predictions on where we think this team is going to end up in the win column. Obviously, being 4-1, kind of looking at. I mean, it's not the second half of the season yet, but coming off the bye, it's hopefully our team is energized and whatnot, just to phase out in the second half of the season. But Kansas State next week, we got Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Really looking at that Utah game because, man, if we're somewhere deep into the Big 12 by then, like that'll be the game to watch at home as well. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have a prediction of where you think the ceiling could be for this team, and where the floor is at the other side.
Yeah, Ben, go for it.
I mean, I'll say it right now, and this might be a little optimistic. I think our floor is 8-4. I think that's our floor. And I mean, yeah, I'm probably a homer, and that could be crazy. But if you look at the schedule, I think we have 6 games left. I think 3 of them should be wins. And should be wins. We lost to Stanford last year, so who knows? But Cincinnati at home should be a win. They're a shootouts. They play like shootouts, and we win shootouts. Texas Tech, I think we should win. And Kansas is 1-4. So I think those 3 should be wins. I mean, we could lose them. Who knows? But that means we have Kansas State, who is going to be, I think, probably our toughest game left on the schedule. But that being at home will hopefully be huge. They're also coming off a bye, which doesn't help. But Arizona is that one is going to be interesting because, I mean, they beat Utah, but then you look back last year, we only lost them by 2-3 points. And now they got a new head coach, and we're obviously much better. So that'll be interesting. And then it'll be interesting with Utah if Cam Rising's back because, I mean, they're playing Isaac Wilson, right? Zach Wilson's little brother. And, I mean, we'll see what he does. But I think the ceiling, realistically 10-2. And I think the floor, I think I'd be surprised if we lost 4 more games.
I would 100%. I'm in full agreement with that. I think we will lose a game to either K-State, Utah, or OSU. Especially, I mean, I'm glad the Oklahoma State game is at home. It sucks that it's during Thanksgiving break, so I assume there won't be as big of a crowd there. But I mean, we're in Colorado, right, boys? Like, Folsom Field is 1 mile above sea level. Compared to most of the schools in the Big 12, they're playing on fields that are like that is a big advantage, the altitude in itself. So I
mean, not to interrupt you, look at last game against UCF where people are like, I think Brandon Marshall before the game is like, how is Travis Hunter going to play all these snaps? It's 110 degrees. Look at TCU last year. And it's like, no problem for us, but sorry.
No, yeah, 100%. That is a great point. I think having that elevation, even being able to travel, I think it's more of an advantage when people come here because we're accustomed to it, but vice versa too, right? Like, we killed UCF. We went in there and killed them. Anyways, I really like that, Schwally. I'm going 10-2 as the max and 8-4 as the minimum.
Yeah, no, to close it off, from my side, it's just like, I'm just happy to be here. Like, if we can get to a bowl game, just win 2 more games. I mean, I know it seems super realistic. I don't want to get too head over heels right now because I'm going to take it 1 week at a time. I think the ceiling, I'm going to go like, my prediction is 7-5. And like, either way, I think that'll be a great season for us. I would love to see Shedeur and Travis play in a bowl game because we know that star quarterbacks and skill position players don't usually do that, but I feel like they would. I just have a feeling like they would play for us, especially it being like the first bowl game in who knows when. But we don't got to get too ahead of ourselves. Looking into next week, we're interviewing a couple reporters from Kansas State, so that'll be interesting. The Dylan Edwards homecoming, which will be a huge game. But yeah, final takeaways from y'all.
Let's go Buffs. I like where the team's at right now. It's been super impressive. I can't wait for the second half.
Totally. I mean, we play like UCF, and I think we win 9 games or 10. So we just got to – the offensive line is the only question mark right now. The defensive, I am so confident in the defense. Just really got to lock down the O-line and run game. But feeling good.
Yes, sir. It is super fun covering this team, man. And Schwally, we appreciate you. Y'all go check him out at Bravo Charlie 222 on Twitter. Bro is probably the best analytical standpoint reporter I know. But yup, we will keep moving. Appreciate y'all for listening and tuning in to Buffs Banter. Have a good one.
Let's go Buffs.